Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm Angela, and I am thrilled today to have with me Irene Weinberg. And Irene and we've been back and forth a few times on a few things. And so I'm going to introduce her to you, and then she's going to fill you in maybe on a little bit more of her story, which you're going to love, by the way. So, Irene's profound spiritual awakening had a book come out of it that took her from a healing journey from devastation and loss to a renewed sense of inner strength, spiritual wisdom, and passion for life. She wrote They Serve Bagels in Heaven. And you can show that book if you want, Irene.
I'll be glad to. And if they want to know if they come with cream cheese and bagels, anything you want in heaven. There you go.
There you go. And this book will touch and enlighten you about the purpose of your life experiences, the importance of love, and the fact that our souls are eternal. And she also has authored the book Good to the Last Drop. And she's got that one too.
And Angela, you're in this one.
Yes. And I was so delighted to write a chapter in that book. And this is all about embracing life and becoming open to new possibilities and your true purpose as you live fully engaged with life and love during the important third chapter of life, we say. And Irene hosts the Grief and Rebirth podcast, which is huge. She explores transformation tools to heal from grief and trauma through interviews with grief and trauma specialists, gifted mediums, healers, and people who have healed and experienced profound rebirth. And so she's a busy lady. She's got a lot going on. So I am thrilled that she could take the time today to spend a little bit with us. So thank you, Irene, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be with you, Angela. It's like set aside things and get to see Angela Day. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, right.
For sure.
I guess I want to start by telling everyone listening that I was once a complete skeptic with for anything about spirituality. I thought it was hooey. And I was married to my husband. We were a second marriage. We were married almost 18 years. And we would laugh at my sister-in-law, his brother's wife, who was very spiritual. We thought, cuckoo. Well, guess what? The joke was on me, because what happened to me was one day my husband was watching a football game on TV, and I was washing some dishes at my kitchen sink, and I suddenly got a message, a thought that was not my thought. It like came into my head, and it said, Saul has to go. Many lessons will be learned from his death. And I put down the glass I was washing, and I paused it. I thought to myself, what am I thinking? This is crazy. And I brought my husband a glass of water. I kissed the top of his head, and I didn't say a word, because this was obviously a crazy thought from out of nowhere. And 2 months later, we were on the New York State Thruway. We were skiers, and we were coming home from ski mountains in New York State. And we were driving about an hour and a half. So I was driving, and I suddenly felt the car go into a huge swerve. And I looked over, and Saul was sound asleep at the wheel. And I called out to him. We were going 72 miles an hour, Angela. And I called out to him. He kind of woke up. He saw what was happening, and he went to pull the car out of the swerve. And as he did, instead of righting itself, our car lifted off like I was in a gigantic helicopter for 4 flips. And the amazing thing that happened was, and I pulled myself, I scrunched myself into a little ball, and you just do that kind of instinctively. And as it took off the first flip, I got another message in my head, and the thought was, he's not going to make it, you are. Well, I hardly have a chance to process this. We flip up, we land really hard, we flipped up again, and at the top of the second flip, I left my body. I found myself in the void. I'm like, where is this? What is this? Talk about learning that we go on. And then all of a sudden I felt myself re-enter my body to continue the flip. And then we flipped the third time. And then the fourth time, we ended up upside down in a ravine by the side of the throughway. And the wheels were spinning the whole thing. And I looked at him. I said, Saulie, are you okay? And I see that the message I got, Saul has to go. He's not going to make it. You are, was true, because I was next to the shell of my husband and everything that made him beautiful, his personality, his wonderful quality, they were all gone, all gone. And in that moment, I got that we go on. This thing had happened to me. I was told it. It came true. And I also felt in the moment that he must still be with me. And just as I'm thinking all this, I see an emergency helicopter land. We held up traffic on the throughway for 2.5 hours. It was such a bad accident. And this helicopter landed, and these 3 EMTs jumped out of the helicopter. I'll never forget it, of course, because I was very hurt. And I'll tell you about that in a minute. But I was conscious and I was aware of everything. And they bounced my car until it got right side up on the throughway. And then one of them put his hands through my shattered window, turned me around, and began to pull me through the window of my car. And as he did, as I was sliding through the window, a male voice came into my head. And it was like a directive. It was not emotional. It was just fact. And the voice said to me, be loving and kind to everyone. Really, as they laid me on the side of the road. Well, Angela's changed everything. I knew that he was there. I knew something was up. And instead of screaming for myself, I'd been given a heavenly directive. So I started being very conscious and being very, very, not that I wasn't a kind, loving person before, but now I'm really aware of what I'm saying and what I'm doing. So I start, instead of saying, oh my God, no, and carrying on, I'm like, thank you for coming out. It's the weekend before Christmas. What's your name? I'm so grateful. They take me to the emergency trauma center, and the doctor came over, the surgeon. I needed 4 surgeries. That particular day, I had 2 blood transfusions, 19 stitches in the bottom of my right foot in an artery. I lost the ACL in my right knee. My collarbone was reversed inside my shoulder, and I had a detached retina. So I had injuries, and I was very hurt. But I also had this thing that had happened to me. And so I didn't really go into, when I grieved, and oh my gosh, and it was really hard, but I didn't go into, complete meltdown, because I knew something was up. And when they told me in the hospital, when the doctor came over and he said to me, I have to tell you that your husband is gone. And I said, you know what, Doc? I know, and I'm the luckiest woman in the world that I had this man in my life. And that was how I was about it. I mean, I am so grateful. And then anyone who came to see me, the way I was, so much so that the assistant to the surgeon called me 3 months later and said to me, I have to tell you that you changed lives in the emergency room that night. We've seen it all. We never saw anyone react to a tragedy like you went through, with such love and kindness to everyone and concern for everyone around you. And I said to her, Trish, I never believed in this before, but I've had quite the spiritual awakening. So now I'm operated on. I'm in a wheelchair. I have crutches. I'm going through the whole hell of, which you're very familiar with, Angela, the whole hell of, for us, it was a burial and a memorial service and all that. And I have stepchildren and all those kinds of issues and all that going on. But I know something's up, and I don't know what it is. And about 6 weeks after the accident, I was just out of my wheelchair. Heaven orchestrates things very nicely for us in a way, if we will just let them. And about 6 weeks after the accident, I was just out of my wheelchair, and I was starting to be able to drive. And I was driving Saul's car. I'm telling you for a reason. I was driving Saul's car because there were still pieces of my car on the road 6 months later. And I got a call from my dry cleaner. And if anyone knows me for 3 minutes, I talk to everybody. I'm very friendly. It's just my personality, right? So my dry cleaner, I used to bring in my dry cleaning and we chat about who knows what. He said, Irene, I wouldn't tell this to just anybody, but I feel like you're very open-minded. And I really want to tell you that the soul goes on. And I have been to see this medium and that medium and this medium. And he's telling me about that he lost his son to a drug overdose 8 years earlier. And he's seen these different mediums and how his son has come through. And just coincidentally, in 2 weeks, if I want to drive to his home, which was 5 towns away from me, he would drive me to yet another town where there was going to be a gallery, a gathering together of people who were going to hear from their deceased loved ones at a hotel. And he said, if you go with me, it won't even cost you anything because we've done a video for this fellow who's such a wonderful medium that, to help him because he's just starting out. Well, that wonderful medium just starting out was the famous John Edward. And when I walked in with my dry cleaner, John greeted him and said to me, I don't even want to know your name. Go upstairs where people are gathered. And today, forget about it, what it costs and everything to have an appointment, a private with John Edward. But for me, it was free. There were only 35 people in the room. It was 1998. There was no such thing as a voice recorder. Everybody brought someone to take notes for them. And John Edward got up in front of everyone and starts, I am hearing, it's like Saul was waiting for me to get the gist. Like I was listening to all these amazing messages come through. Oh my God, yes, my father shot himself in the head with a pistol. I mean, how does John Edward know that, right?
Yeah.
And now he suddenly said, I'm getting a message from someone. And he's talking about Dr. Pepper. And I elbowed my dry cleaner. I said, oh my God, start writing. Oh my God, it's Saul. Saul's brother was a big advertising executive on Madison Avenue in New York City. And he laughed and as a joke, he put Saul's name in a Dr. Pepper commercial and the commercial was Dr. Pepper is coming east from California. Let's talk to the man in the street, Saul Weinberg, about what he thinks of Dr. Pepper. And Saul used to laugh about that and laugh about that. And this happened 15 years before he met me. So there's no way that John could know this. Saul had to be telling him this. So he said, he's talking about Dr. Pepper. Then he was 40 minutes, so much so that John Edwards said to me, how long is this guy on the other side? This is an old soul. This guy has done this a lot. And so he's telling me you're wearing his skier charm under your blouse. He's telling me he died in a different state than where you live. He had each of the names of each of our kids, everything. And then the kicker for me was he's telling me you're driving his favorite car with Saul Z on the license plate. How could John Edward know that Saul had a license plate on that car that was parked all those towns away that said Saul Z on it? And the reason it said Saul Z is because Saul was a real estate developer and the kids he sold condos to loved him and called him Uncle Saul Z. So here's the license plate, Angela.
Aw.
Okay. So and cool. If there was ever proof that Saul was on the other side talking to John Edward, that was it. So now I know he's on the other side. I'm starting to read books and all this other kind of thing. And now I'm becoming friends with my sister-in-law, who I thought was cuckoo, but now all of a sudden she's the one person who understands. And in those days, I really couldn't tell a lot of people because like I had thought, So now I start to see mediums, Angela, and I'm going to all these different people. I'm not telling anyone in my world that I'm doing this. And Saul's coming through every way that he can. He describes his toes to me through someone, the first way we kissed, the outfit he was wearing the night he died. And then there was another message that each one kept telling me. There's a divine plan. You've been soulmates many lifetimes. If things didn't work out in a certain way in this lifetime, he was going to leave first and you're working together. You're going to work together. You have an agreement to work together beyond, from each side of the veil. I was like, huh? What is this, right? But I got the messages and all this is coming through. I eventually found my way to, and I was told, I was getting messages, you're supposed to write a book. la la la. So I eventually found my way, was recommended to someone who started channeling, helping me channel my book. And I started asking Saul questions. What's it like? What was it like for you to cross over? What did they do about evil? Are there really soulmates? All these things. And it's a love story. It tells about my spiritual awakening and it answers those questions for people. And Angela, I thought I was done. But Spirit had other plans. So one day I'm out there, I'm telling my story. And then one day the word podcast came into my head. Well, I'm a baby boomer. So I said to someone, what's a podcast? I just heard the word podcast. And they said, oh, we can help you do that. Now I'm saying to myself, they're telling me I'm supposed to interview people. Who am I supposed to interview? And I thought about it. And the uncanny thing, which Angela, you're doing the same thing in a lot of ways, right? But the uncanny thing was someone else would say, I'm not doing that. This is crazy. But because that voice came into my head and I had these experiences, I knew it was true. So I went along with it, but I didn't, of course, publicize it because in my world, they would have been woo, but I was going along. So when I started getting these messages and they told me to write a book and I thought I was done, now I get the message podcast. So I thought to myself, okay, whatever that means, I'm supposed to start a podcast. So I thought, you know what? I could not have survived my grief, gotten through to this next place in my life without the help of a life. I worked with a life transition coach. I worked with medium saved my life. I started getting to energy healing. They helped me with past life stuff and all kinds of stuff. And then people started saying to me that I was a role model because of course, I had this thing that had happened to me, but that I was, even though I was grieving so hard and going through all this, in another way, I was moving on with my life and working things through. And they thought, wow, you're such a role model. So I thought I'm also going to interview people who go through tremendous challenges in their lives and they're able to heal and transform their lives. Because for me, it was all about healing. If I hadn't gotten this help that I did from these different, the energy healers, the mediums, the life transition. I mean, the life transition coach had me going into a restaurant by myself. I want you to sit at the table. You're a woman alone now. I know it's hard, but I want you to learn how to be on your own. So I was doing all of this. I thought I'm going to interview grief and trauma specialists, healers, mediums, and people who have been through really hard times and come through it and transform their lives. And from that, Angela, I started. I've interviewed you. We've been right with each other and all that. And I started to do this, not really knowing something was up, just following the directive. And the podcast is now grown to be in the top 2% of 3 million podcasts. It's helping tons of people. I'm streaming in 100 countries. And I tell people it's meeting a need that people have because there's so much heartbreak and despair and grief for many different reasons on our planet that when I interview these people, it gives people hope that they can handle things in a different way or that they can go on. So I'm doing all of that. And then I thought it was done. And then one day someone gave me the message. They're saying you're such a good role model for people that you ought to write a book about legacies and third chapters in life. I was like, oh, really? New job, new assignment. So I went to my podcast, which now I have, well over 300 interviews. And I started, and Angela, you were one of them. I started choosing people to interview who had really interesting stories about how they were changing the legacy of things that had happened to them into something really positive that they were working on. And the book is called Good to the Last Drop. And I have people contacting me all the time. Oh my God, this story was my favorite story in the book. This story really helped me. This story moved me and blah, blah, blah. So it's helping it's so many people. And I thought I was done.
Never done.
But now the podcast is changing so many lives that I'm going to start a membership on YouTube. and talk about ascension and how we can live our lives from the higher view, from a higher perspective in life to help us get through the chaos and the issues that we're all grappling with today. And I'm going to be working with a wonderful woman who I've interviewed named Mary D'Agostino, who is an astrologer, a medium, a psychic. She's got so many gifts. And we're going to be gathering people together. We'll be publicizing it in June. And we'll be gathering. So anyone who subscribes to the podcast, I should say, Grief and Rebirth, Finding the Joy in Life, if you subscribe, you'll start to get information about this membership, because we're going to create this very safe sanctuary for people to feel loved and feel like they belong, and to ask their questions, and to be accepted, no judgment, just to gather together and to learn. So that's the journey, this amazing journey that I've been on, aside from having a normal life where I'm a grandmother and on all the other things that I do. But I feel so blessed because I got to meet you. I'm meeting the most amazing people. And it's really very inspiring. And we all have kind of light workers unite. You know, we're all trying to help on the planet. And there are a few things I really, in this journey, few things I love to tell people that I like to pass on. The first is when they pulled me out of the car, Angela, and I got the message, be loving and kind to everyone. I realized that included me.
Yes.
So we don't take time for self-love. We don't understand, which is something we'll be talking about with my membership. Is it okay to lovingly detach from toxic people in your life out of love for yourself? How do you take care of yourself? Are you as precious as anyone else you're taking care of in your life? And what does that look like? Right. And that's one thing that I talk to people about. And the other thing is that for a little while after the accident, I was really getting into this world. I was working with a medium, and we had gone to a gallery in Vermont, and we didn't know anyone. We had been invited to this gallery in Vermont, similar to what I first went through with John Edward. And there were 30 people in a room, and there was a young girl in the front of the grouping, crying, sobbing, Angela, sobbing, crying hysterically. And the medium walked right over to her. We didn't know anyone in the room, and said to her, I see a father figure, and he's telling me that he's so sorry that the night before he unexpectedly died, the two of you had an absolutely horrible fight, and you called each other terrible names, and he got a life review, and he got to feel what that did for you, to you, and all of that, and he is so sorry, and he loves you, and he apologized for everything he said. And I saw the difference in this young girl from sitting hysterical in that front row to the big smile and relief when she walked out of that room. And I tell people that's what being conscious is about, realizing that the way you treat people follows you. Follows you onto the other side. So isn't it worth it to heal your stuff now? So you don't have to go through it all over again with karma and all these other different things that we do. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think, being kind to others feels really good. If you can do that in your life, think of ways that you can make somebody happy. Just smiling at somebody in the grocery store, just saying one nice thing can make a person's day. And it doesn't take a lot, it's just, and it makes you feel so good.
Yeah. And some people dole out kindness like that. It's a commodity. And it really, the other thing I found about being kind is that a lot of us spend a lot of our time in judgment of each other.
Yeah.
We have so much to say about other people's decisions and what they do.
Been there.
Me too. But if you're kind about it, sometimes you can see that person's had a really hard life,
Yeah.
or you can't judge like where they are and what's going on. And if they're toxic, you could walk away, but you could have some compassion sometimes for
Mhm.
for people for what they're going through, because you
Yeah.
don't really ever know a person's real whole story.
No, no. And you have no idea what kind of a day they've had, what's happening, what's going on in their mind, what kind of stories are being told, what's happening with their kids or their, you just, you have no idea. So it's like, doing that one kind thing can completely turn around a person's day. It just can. So yeah, I love that message.
It
Love it.
really was at a big doctor's office recently, and one of the nurses said to me, "You're the only patient who comes in here with a smile and a kind word for all of us."
Hmm.
And I thought to myself, why should it be that way?
Yeah.
What a different world it would be if we all just were kind to each other.
Yeah. Well, that's the way I dispelled fear, actually, when I was afraid to go to the hospital for my colonoscopy. And I talk about this in my book, but it's like I ended up taking a gift for the nurses. And there was something about having that gift and having, this gratitude for what they do and the doctors, and just having that with me somehow gave me courage. Like it was like, I'm scared. I'm a little afraid of what's going to happen here, but I feel like these guys have got my back. And, you know, feeling that gratitude and love, you can't feel fear. It's like it's either one or the other, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's what happened to me when they operated on me in after the accident. If you're kind, they're still going to do their jobs, but
Yeah.
I think that if you're kind, they're going to be a little more conscious and aware of
Mhm.
how they treat you and what you do. You know what I'm saying? What's
Yeah.
coming your
Yeah.
way also.
Yeah. Well, and you're putting that energy out there. I mean, if you're grumpy, you're putting that energy out. They're picking that up. A lot of them are empaths. I mean, they wouldn't be in that work if they weren't.
That's true.
They're picking up that energy. And so it makes it harder for them to do their job. And yes, we're all human and we all make mistakes, but it doesn't hurt to be kind.
It doesn't hurt to be kind, Angela, right?
No. Yeah.
So that's the way it really changed my life. It changed the way I handle things. It changed the way I process things. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not telling you that I'm perfect or that I don't get aggravated or I don't get annoyed,
Yeah.
but I like to think that I come back around to kindness more quickly than
Yeah.
a lot of people do,
Yeah.
because I remind myself after I've had my initial, I'm like, and if you're conscious, I'll say, what am I feeling? Where's this
Mm-hmm.
coming from? What's triggering me with this?
Yeah.
How can I look at this in a different way
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
to mitigate um what's going on here, you know? And it works. I
Yeah.
found that it works.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're going into the emotion and you're releasing it that way. If you're pushing it away and going, well, I shouldn't be angry or I shouldn't be mad, and you just force yourself to be, but no, you gotta feel what you feel. And I think there's a message in it always. Well, there is for
Oh,
me. I mean, always
yeah.
there's a message at the bottom. What am I really feeling here and why? Because it could have been something that happened 10 years ago that's being triggered by this event. I don't know. It often happens. So it's like an opportunity to heal, right?
And that's my bottom line. I busy telling everyone through the podcast, through which will be the YouTube channel, through whatever I do, please consider healing. Why are you carrying around?
Yeah.
And I can honestly admit, I was abandoned by my family for 23 years.
Wow.
I had a very, very painful childhood. And if I hadn't done all the healing that I have, I don't know what my life would be like now.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember being in despair a lot. And but I went for counseling. And and then after the accident, I worked for more people, and it now when I think it made me more conscious that when something happens now, I can literally say, okay, what's triggering that? What in my background
Mm-hmm.
is still needs healing, or is causing me to handle it in this way? Is there a different way? I don't have to believe some of the distortions I got taught when I was growing up.
Right.
They don't apply anymore, right? But that you can, however you do it, that is what healing can do for you. Because my theory, and I think Angela, you'll agree, is that people have such tough times in their lives for things that go on. And it's like they're collecting all their pain and putting it in a backpack. And then they've got that backpack strapped to them. And then someone cuts them off in traffic, and all of a sudden they're pulling out a rifle. Well, that's not the rage at the person who cut them off in traffic. That's the rage at their father or their mother or whatever that happened. And it gets awakened,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But when you've had healing, you don't, that's, you can offset it. You can understand what's going on, and you don't have to act on those negative, toxic thoughts that come from all that stuff that you haven't healed yet, right?
Yeah.
So I tell people, drop your backpack of suffering. You can do it.
Yeah.
You can heal.
Lots of, well, and I always tell people, I feel like if you open yourself up to that, that you want to heal and you're not sure how to do it, that doesn't matter, but you're just open to it. The universe will bring you the right people, the circumstances, the situations. You're always in the right place. And if you're open to it and you step into, I seen people on a summit and I was like, wow, I really like this person. Well, I do a little investigation, maybe book a discovery session with them, maybe take them up on some free healing or something. And every time I did that, it just led me to a new place, right? It's just like following the breadcrumbs is what we call it.
Well, in a way, that's how you found me. That's
yes,
how we
exactly.
met. We
Right.
didn't know each other at all. And you just put
Yeah.
that out there, and I came up, right?
Yeah.
And you got that
Google grief. There you go.
Google grief.
Boom.
Lucky
Irene
me.
Weinberg. There she is.
Lucky me.
I'll just invite her to my podcast. Okay.
Yeah. It was a wonderful getting to know you.
Yeah, it's been fun, and we've had opportunities to cross paths again and again, which is really cool. I really like
which is
it.
really wonderful. Yeah. I like in this community that's conscious to this wonderful supportive tribe that we all have with each other. And a lot of other people in the outside world will say, woohoo, but we're not. We're really onto something. Come join us. It's good over here.
Yeah. It's great over here.
It's great over here. It really helps you.
No, go
it
ahead.
really helps.
Oh, absolutely. It does. It does. And I guess a person can't really tell you how it is until you start to open yourself up to that. And when you get tired of, when for me, it was like I was tired of being sad, and I was tired of everything that I wanted to do was clouded with sadness. And I was asking the big questions, right? Like, why am I here? And why did Blaine leave? And, all of that. And that's what led me to where I am now. It's just discovering and trying to figure it out, and really just not giving up. You just got to keep trying.
And that's so true, Angela. And the other part about healing is, with the horrible thing that happened, this tragedy that happened to you and that tragedy that happened to me, either one of us could have stayed stuck in our swamp. That could have been, which is what a lot of people do. I lost my mate. It's terrible. I've been suffering. And that's where a lot of people stay, instead of, okay, I need help, but there must be a reason for me to go on. I have to. And how am I going to do that? One of my favorite stories about that is when they were pulling me out of the car. My husband was buried on my son's 21st birthday. And as they were pulling me out of the car, aside from the message I got, be loving and kind to everyone, I thought to myself, I have to get through this somehow, because I have to teach Matt that you can get hit by a grenade in life and still keep going. I knew that how I was going to handle this, my son, was going to deeply affect my son. I didn't have all the answers in any
Oh.
way, but I just knew I kind of scripted myself one way or the other. I was going to heal. And 4 years after the accident, my son said to me, you know, Mom, there's been nothing worse than seeing you in total despair, and nothing better than seeing you be able to have joy again.
Mm,
And I thought, that's why
yeah.
it was worth healing and moving
Beautiful.
on. And now I have these three beautiful grandsons, and I'm part of their lives. And they don't see me as this morose lady just feeling sorry for herself in the
Mm-hmm.
corner.
Right.
They see a
Yeah.
grateful lady for all that she's had and is moving, learning new things and moving forward. It's quite a different message.
Yeah.
And they are learning from that also.
Mm-hmm. And Irene can help you with that.
Well, if they get on the podcast, I know a lot of people who
Yep.
can help, and we'll be
Yeah.
doing it through the membership. Yeah,
Yeah. So
on
tell
YouTube.
people again how they can get in touch with you, find out more about what you're doing.
Okay. So you can Google Grief and Rebirth podcast. It will all come right up. Or you can Google Irene Weinberg, WEINBERG.com. And you'll hear my story. You can subscribe and all of that. And you can also subscribe to the YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel, and it goes by Grief and Rebirth. And then on Amazon, we have They Serve Bagels in Heaven, and we have Good to the Last Drop. And I would love to hear from people if they read, if when they read the books, if they'd like to, and if anyone listening decides to join the YouTube membership, please let me know you came through Angela through this interview. And I'll be so thrilled and honored for you to join us. It's going to be a very uplifting experience. So we're going to have 2 meetings a month, and then different things to do the weeks in between. And we're going to have some guest speakers and all of that. And the other thing I want to tell people is if you're looking for a healer or a medium, go to Grief and Rebirth podcast. I have interviewed so many amazing healers and mediums. You can literally listen to the interviews and say, that's the person for me, which is what a lot of people have done, because I ask them questions and get them to talk about what they do. So you can experience who they are, what led them to what they do. Give me an example of someone you've really helped and all of that. And a lot of people have said to me, I chose this or that person after listening to their interview on your podcast. So I think it helps a lot of people that way.
Absolutely.
And it's just it's just a wonderful way to, as you are doing also, Angela, us the thing that happened to us. And instead of sitting in the swamp and feeling badly, look at it as a blessing. Be so grateful. I'm so grateful for my husband, for everything. I know he's still around me. I know Saul is still here. He's aware of everything going on. And I've given him strict instructions that he better take me to the other side. That's all I can say when that time comes. I want a fun escort, but
Yes.
it really changes. I'm not afraid of dying anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just conscious about wanting to live life healthy, taking care of and I take care of myself. Talk about self-love, Angela.
Mm-hmm.
Taking, good to the last drop.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
With love and with kindness.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Irene, again for taking this time to share everything, your story and what you're up to and where people can go. And I encourage people to go and listen to the podcast and go to YouTube, check that out. And
they can also listen to my interview with you on the podcast, Angela.
Absolutely. Yes. In fact, I'll maybe even just put that in the description so people can go straight there and check that out. But
yeah,
yeah,
we had a wonderful interview.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much again for taking the time. And I want to thank everyone for listening, and don't forget to subscribe, and bye for now.